Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Bookish podcast. Just so you all know, next week we will be discussing the Iliad with Jade from About a Book podcast. It's going to be a lot of fun, and honestly, we're going to be diving very deep into the Trojan War here, and you guys are going to love it. We also are going to be reading the Odyssey after that. We're reading the Emily Wilson translation. As we found out in the Iliad, having two separate translations was kind of strange, but I think you guys will still enjoy it. And it's a lot of fun, like looking into all the insights between the two different translations. So I think you guys will enjoy, getting those different perspectives because I really enjoyed it as a reader, and I kind of learned, what I want in a translation. And not to get into spoilers, but you guys will kind of get what I mean in the next couple episodes. So if you want to read the Iliad, whatever translation you have, Jade read the Penguin's Classic translation, and then I read a Barnes & Noble exclusive. I forgot who the translator is now, but it's the Barnes & Noble paperback in their classic area that has just the cute face armor, I want to say face shield. Is it a mask? Not that this matters, but it's got it's really pretty. If you haven't read it yet, just whatever translation of the Iliad you have, just go ahead and read it, and then you can get into it. Or if you remember, that's cool too. I had never read it before, as per usual, so it was a lot of fun to get into. But that'll be next week. This week we're finishing up the 1985 Irwin Allen's Alice in Wonderland, and this is the part 2, which is going to be Through the Looking Glass. So this is with Leah, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But without further ado, let's get into the episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of, I guess, technically Alice in Wonderland, but really Through the Looking Glass by Irwin Allen, the 1985 version. And we are on to the second disc flip. And I am joined by Leah from YA Book Chat.
Hey, everybody. It's good to be back. I'm excited to talk about this second movie.
Yeah, it's funny to me because I always just imagine having to actually go in, grab the second disc, put it in, and then watch the second part of the movie instead of realizing that, I have Netflix and that just automatically happens for me now.
Right? It's always weird. I'm always like, why isn't if I watch something else, if I watch a TV show on Hulu or Disney Plus, whatever, I'm like, why isn't the next episode loading? Come on now.
Well, it's my childhood was like Lord of the Rings. So I was always, you have your disc bundle set up.
Right.
And then they're like, to be continued on the next disc. And you're like, I got 3 more hours. I can do the next disc. We had the director's cut. I've never seen the original movie release. I've only seen director's edition.
The 3.5 hour long versions. Mm-hmm. I've got those too. I love them.
I'm just I wonder what the movie theater people watched when they didn't watch 3.5 hours.
So you and I can have that discussion another day if you wish, or when we're done recording, because I actually did watch it in the movie theater. Oh, yeah. And then, I watched it in the movie theater and then bought the director's cuts, and then I could see what was different. But this one was actually, so the Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass was actually a made for TV movie. So they did it in 2 parts. So obviously Alice in Wonderland part 1 and then Through the Looking Glass part 2. But it was, so it was a made for TV movie. So that's how that one was.
I was thinking it had to have been the way things cut off, because it very much felt like a made for TV.
Yeah, movie. It was.
But I was also uncertain of how common that was, because it was a multi-million-dollar movie.
Yes, but they did made for TV movies a lot in the 80s and 90s too. So
yeah, I wasn't sure because I was not born.
I know. I feel extremely old now, but whatever, it's fine.
It's fine, you know.
Fine.
Time is but a social construct. It's whatever.
That's right.
So, you know, Jabberwocky still hanging out for some reason.
Yes.
When they restart part 2. And instead of her finding this chess set in the embers, in her fear, she knocked everyone on the ground. But there isn't a complete chess set on the ground. She's only got like the kings and queens, the knights, and one pawn that's a baby that's crying.
That she puts up there. Mm-hmm. I actually like it that way. I like that she knocked them off when she was afraid, when the Jabberwocky was there, because it makes more sense. Because like we talked about when we were talking about the book, why are they in the embers? Why are they in the ashes? So this just makes more sense where she knocks them off.
Absolutely.
See, and that's what something that I like about this movie and how it was done, because remember, so this is one thing with the chess pieces, but in the first one, I didn't mention this last episode, but remember how when we read the book, I was like, well, when she's in the hallway and she cries, she's just all of a sudden in a puddle and outside, like the doors disappear, right? But in this movie, there's like a crack in the wall in the stones that she goes through, and that's how she gets outside and then falls into the puddle of water. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I was like, okay, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, so I liked that they took those couple of little questionable things in Lewis Carroll's story and made them make sense.
Yeah. So then we get introduced to the White Queen, and my first reaction when I see her, and I specifically see her hair, I was like, "Is that Jane Fonda?"
No,
no, it's not. I had to Google who it was, because I was like, "That doesn't sound like Jane Fonda."
But it's Carol Channing, who was so fantastic. Again, another fantastic like 80s and earlier actress and singer. She did Broadway. Like the woman was amazing. I love Carol Channing. And let me tell you, based off of the actors from this time period, I don't think anybody could have done that part of the White Queen better than she did.
No, she did a great job.
So good. Like to play that disheveled, out of place queen.
Yeah.
She's perfect.
Now we're on to the owl. So the owl's like, yeah, you made up the Jabberwocky out of your sheer fear. And I was like, not helpful at all.
I know. He was a bit harsh about it, we'll say. Okay. Have you ever seen the 1995 movie While You Were Sleeping with Sandra Bullock?
It sounds familiar.
The guy who plays the owl, Jack Warden, is in that movie. He's Saul, like the older man, her pretend fiance, fiance's father, her grandfather. He's the older man in it. Anyways, he's fantastic too. But he is definitely a bit harsh with her. Like it's because he's just like, it's not going to go away until you're done. But again, you know, it's like I said, in the 1980s, like that was a big thing, was that they used these TV shows and movies to teach a lesson to kids. You know, at the end of all the He-Mans and G.I. Joes, there was that little, remember kids, blah, 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 you know? So that was a very 1980s thing. I think in this case, though, it's a little harsh.
Yeah. No.
He says it to her.
He's like, you're never going to grow up unless you like throw all your fear out the window. And I was like, okay, thanks.
Even adults are afraid.
Yeah, so, literally.
You know. Yeah.
It's like, that's stressful for everyone involved, but all right.
Just a little.
It's very funny though.
It was.
So then we get to the scene of flowers, and every single one of the flowers is petty. Absolutely all of them.
Oh my gosh. They all are. I do love that scene though. Yeah. I don't know why, but I really do. I love that scene. The actresses who play the flowers are, again, like Sally Struthers, who is the Tiger Lily. She was like huge in the 80s. I mean, like in the 70s too, because she was on, oh shoot, I'm gonna totally forget the name of that show. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But like I love the flowers. I don't know why. That's always been one of my favorite scenes. Just because I think like I've always been like a gardening person. You know, I grew up like with my mom, helping my mom and my grandma and my aunts in the garden. And I've just always loved flowers, and I don't know. So that's always one of my favorite scenes, was that scene with the flowers talking to her.
I've always really liked when they give what would otherwise be an inanimate object a personality in movies. I always think that's a lot of fun. Like, I think that's why as a kid I loved Toy Story.
Yeah, right? Because you want to have that in your imagination. Like, you want your toys to come alive. You want this to happen. There was a movie again in the 80s or 90s. I think it was called Teddy Bear's Picnic. And it was this animated movie about this little boy who has these stuffed teddy bears. And when he leaves, they come alive, and they leave one day to go to the teddy bear's picnic. And it's this like fantastic fun thing. And then they find this little girl who gets lost in the wood because she's looking for her teddy bear. And one of the younger bears like comes alive in front of her, and the other one's like, you're not supposed to do that. Anyway, it's a whole thing, but they come to life. And so it's the same thing, you know, like you're just, that little part of you, I think, never goes away as you get older. Like, you always hope like fairies are real and unicorns are real, and that your toys come to life when you go to sleep.
And you look at your dog and you're like, I know you can talk.
Right? I need one of those like dog translator collars.
See, if I got one for my dog, it would just be sleep, tired, 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 sleep, tired. And then she'd be like, happy, 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 tired. And that's all that I would get.
It'd be something, yeah.
Well, the thing is, though, my dog doesn't bark, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. So this collar wouldn't even work. The only time she barks is when someone's at the door. Can I just get one that like mind reads and relates to me what she's thinking?
There you go. That's what we need.
Yeah, because my dog, it would be silent, and then it would be panic, stress, 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 panic. Then we get the scene with the Red Queen, but she doesn't get lost in the garden. They don't have that whole part of like her having to go backwards, which is fine. It didn't really bother me that wasn't there. So I think that just kind of annoying. Thing. Yeah, it just would have been annoying for viewers who were like, didn't read the book, and they're like, why is this happening?
Yeah, exactly.
And then, okay, so I forget in the 80s that they were kind of a little more loose on what you could say during kids' movies. But when the Red Queen says that one of the White Queen's brats are too young to play, I was like, oh, nice.
Yes, it was just kind of, I even, that moment caught me off guard too. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. One of her brats is too little. I was like, oh yeah, okay. All right.
I was like, you tell them, Red Queen. Nice.
That's right.
And then the Red Queen just straight up dragging Alice is iconic. I thought that was hilarious.
It is hilarious because Alice is like floating behind her, feet up in the air.
Yeah.
She's being dragged along.
Yeah.
Oh,
and funny. Then in this one, the Red Queen explained absolutely no rules of chess. And then she's like, okay, good luck. Bye.
Right? She's just like, okay, I'm going to put these pegs in the ground. And when I get to the fifth one away from you, I'm leaving. See ya.
Yeah.
When you get to the A square, you're queen. Done. Poof. Gone. She didn't even explain about the train, that the train was there for Alice to take. It just like ends up coming and appearing, and Alice gets on it.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, is that in the book, she just kind of ends up on the train. She didn't walk onto the train. So they took out a lot of this scene cut situation that they had in the book, which is fine because it would have just looked like tacky editing.
Right. And again, they're kind of taking like something that Lewis Carroll wrote that you're like, how does that work? And kind of explaining it a little bit and making it just make a little bit more sense.
Yeah. But the fact that they had to use a toy train for the train was so cute.
Wasn't that hilarious? Yeah. I absolutely loved it. Again, it's one of those, details you don't pick up as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was watching it and I was like, oh, it's a toy train. It's so cute.
Yeah.
I loved it.
I know. I was like, oh, like they could have tried to pick a toy train that was realistic looking, but I'm not mad that they didn't, I think it worked.
Me too. It was perfect. I loved it.
And that everyone in the train car sitting there roasting Alice is probably one of my favorite things. It's so funny.
Okay, ready? Here we go. Here's my favorite thing about this train scene. And again, this is another actor reference because I have to. Please tell me that you have seen the original, like the Karate Kid movies.
I've probably seen snippets of it. I did not watch a lot of TV as a kid. I was very much a book nerd.
But listen, these are like classic. You need to watch the Karate
I know.
Kid. Okay.
I haven't even. Okay, if it makes you feel better, I haven't seen The Phantom of the Opera either, or read the book. So if you're under, like, keep in mind where my basil is. I have a whole podcast about not reading things.
This is true. I'm not going to fault you for not reading the Phantom of the Opera book because, I mean, how many people have actually read that book? But, and you're talking to someone who has seen the Broadway musical like 4 times and seen the sequel to the Broadway musical, the second one that Andrew Lloyd Webber did recently. Anyway, okay, so my point in this is the horse is played by Pat, and I never know how to say his last name, Morita, who plays Mr. Miyagi in the Karate Kid movies.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, yes. And it's fantastic. I just love him. Like, that's my favorite part.
I've only seen like some parts of the remake of Karate Kid as well.
Don't. That's just not even right. Just don't.
This is like the same situation where I've only seen the most recent Fast and Furious after Paul Walker died. I've only seen that one. And then I went back and saw Tokyo Drift and none of the other ones.
Yeah, I've seen like half of one of those movies. There's so many, I can't even keep track.
The only movies I've watched consistently over and over and over again is I went through a Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Lord of the Rings phase where I would watch them every weekend and like I'd interchange them. So those are the movies that I've watched the most.
Those are good options. Yeah. So that's good. Good choices. But anyways, you do need to watch the original Karate Kids, and then you'll see Mr. Miyagi plays the horse. But I agree with you. This scene on the train is really fun. It's funny because, okay, first of all, I mean, the guy in the paper suit, he's just, his costume is perfect. Like it doesn't get any more perfect. Like his hat even is like one of those like hats you make out of newspaper and would stick on your head. It's so perfect.
So cute.
And just and the horse and the goat, like oh my gosh, it's just perfect. I love this scene. It's so fun.
No, I love it. It's really cute. And then when they use the goat's beard as the emergency brake, I was like, what?
That was the best thing ever. My kids were in there with me and I was like, watch what she's going to do. And they're like, what? I said, watch. And then she pulls on his, on his beard and stops the train. It was hilarious. That actor too. Okay. For anybody listening who, again, watch TV shows in the 90s. That is Patrick Duffy. And in the 90s, he was on a show that was on Friday nights on TJF on Fridays. Step by Step, it was called. Anyway, I used to watch that show religiously, and he was the dad on that show. So there you go. Anyways.
So there you go. So then after she pulls the goat's beard, Alice runs off the train. And the gnat's outside of the train and wasn't on it, which is fine because it can't be microscopic, really.
Right, not in the 80s.
A voiceover, I guess, but
yeah, in the 80s though, it's a little simpler. They wouldn't have done it, so I was fine with that.
And I was like, whatever. The gnat wasn't that big of a thing.
I will have to say, he is a little creepy looking.
Oh, he's so creepy looking.
I mean, of all the animals, he's the creepiest. Well, he's a bug, not an animal, but of all of them, he's the kind of the creepiest looking one to me.
Absolutely. So then we get to Tweedledee and Tweedledum, and they have a singing number. And now one's a man, one's a woman, and I guess they're fraternal. Is that the right? Yeah, that's the right word.
Yes, fraternal.
Which I was like, okay.
I was fine with that because it's gonna be really hard to cast two people who look, unless you're casting exactly identical twins, which I'm sure wasn't super easy. I liked that they were fraternal twins. I thought it was fun.
I think it made the singing numbers balance out a little bit better too. So
yeah, I was thinking that too, actually, as I was listening to them and hearing them harmonize and sing their different parts. It sounded really good.
So then we get the oysters, the carpenter, the walrus, and the oysters.
Big oysters.
With like some sort of rocket leg singing number situation.
Oh my gosh. That was so weird.
Yeah.
And the walrus, he freaks me out. Like I can't look at his face because they made his face look so realistic with the walrus. I don't even know, what are they called?
Tusks.
Thank you. Yes, tusks. And like the bulges where it's just, it's crazy. Like it's freaky looking. And I was like, you really are a walrus.
I was like, I don't like it.
I can't. I'm telling you, that part always creeped me out.
Yeah, and then like how they all go off scene and they come back and the oysters don't come back. I was like, oh no.
Yeah. I will have to say though, I did like how they handled it in this movie, because Tweedledum and Tweedledee they start singing and they take Alice like they're going for a walk through the woods, and then they go through this big cave and end up on the beach. And then it's like the scene, and the walrus and the carpenter and the oysters are there, and it's like all playing out in front of them on the beach. I liked how they did that.
Yeah, I think it makes it more interesting and easier to follow too, especially because this is like catered to kids. It's hard to follow a singing number.
Yes, it would have been really confusing otherwise. Yeah.
Because the poem itself is kind of confusing. So
yes, it is.
Yeah. So next, I looked down for literally a second while this was playing, and I look up, and now they're at the White Queen, and she has the shawl in her hand, and I was like, oh, okay, scene transition.
And I love her. Again, Carol Channing was just so perfect for this role, and she was so like frazzled and everywhere, and it was fantastic.
The funny thing to me though is Dinah doesn't have kittens in the movie, so her being disheveled when she's supposed to be the white cat doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but that's one of those like small details you just kind of forgive, you know.
Yeah,
it's fine.
It's fine, whatever. The one thing I will stand on is Bill should have been in the jury, but you know what? I'll allow it.
I know.
So the pricking the finger on the brooch is my favorite thing that happens, because it's super well done, but the shift into the sheep is terrifying.
It's freaky and scary when she turns into, because it's just weird how she just says that one word like over and over. Now Carol Channing has the voice to do that. Her voice is this like raspy kind of weird funky voice. So she actually has a perfect voice to do this, to be the one who turns into a sheep, but it's just weird. Well, it's just a weird moment.
Yeah, the weird thing is to me that they cut out the entire scene with the sheep. There's no sheep shop. There's no boating adventure. So there's really no reason except to get Alice to go to the next scene.
Right. And I mean, you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah.
I wasn't sad that they cut out the store with the sheep, or the scene with the sheep store.
No, because I think it would have made little kids cry when she plucked the flowers after we know they're alive now.
Yes, that would have been. And again, it's one of those scenes that you're kind of like, it didn't really further the plot line very much, so we'll just skip it.
Oh, and then the crow comes out of nowhere way after they've left Tweedledee and Tweedledum, because that's the crow that's supposed to break up their fight.
Right.
So I'm like, why is the crow here?
They had to put it somewhere.
I guess, but I was like, put it back where Tweedledee and Tweedledum was, or don't use it at all. Like now it's just Alice gets scared while walking through the forest crow.
Yeah. I don't know.
So next we get on to Humpty Dumpty. Very egg-like.
Yes.
But my favorite thing is it's not that narrow of a ledge. He's just sitting on the edge of it. But I just think it's kind of funny when she's like, you're sitting on such a narrow ledge. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, it's really not that bad.
But what was great though was that he was standing on it. He wasn't sitting. So I feel like that was a good choice because it makes it look more precarious. Like he could more easily fall off of it.
For sure.
And again, big name actor, like that was Jonathan Winters, who did so much stuff. What's funny is he actually played Tweedledum and Tweedledee in an animated version of Alice in Wonderland.
Oh, really? In the Disney one?
It says 1987. So just 2 years after this one. So I don't know what year the Disney one came out. It just says Alice in Wonderland.
I think Alice in Wonderland came out in the early.
Sorry, this is a different one. This is Alice Through the Looking Glass TV movie, Tweedledum and Tweedledee voice. But he did a ton of stuff too. He was on Mork and Mindy with Robin Williams when Robin Williams was first getting started.
Love Robin Williams.
Oh my gosh, me too.
Him in Birdcage.
Yes. Oh my gosh, fantastic. He did. This guy did. He was Papa Smurf in the Smurfs.
What?
And like the original animated series, which I loved growing up, but whatever. He was Papa Smurf. He's fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah, very good. And then when he tap dances on the ledge, stressful.
Right?
So stressful. There's so much tap dancing in this.
It was great. I loved it.
So awesome. Alice's fear somehow brings the Jabberwocky back, and the Jabberwocky just straight shoves Humpty Dumpty off this wall,
which is hilarious.
So funny.
It was so funny.
Yeah,
I feel like it's a good way to get him off the wall.
Yeah, because I mean, the other way, he just kind of fades to black and he falls.
Yeah, this was much better. Jabberwocky shoving him off. Which, okay, I'm gonna say something. The Jabberwocky. This is okay. I mean, watching it now as a 40-year-old woman, even still appreciating that this was made in the mid 80s, I'm like, wow, that thing is not at all scary looking.
No.
But as a 5-year-old child watching this movie, I distinctly remember my sister and me being at my cousin's house and the three of us watching this movie on TV and being scared of that darn Jabberwocky, because when you're 5 years old and it's the middle of the 80s, that's scary. But I look at it now and I'm like, oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, I know. Well, it's weird how quickly CGI and how making things look even more and more realistic quickly shifted our level of horror and comfortability as children. Because for me, even if I was 5 years old watching that, I don't think it would have scared me because of my level of CGI,
Right. But see, I was 5 years old when this came out. So for me, this was what things were like.
Yeah.
And think about it too, the difference between, because the Jabberwocky is in the first Tim Burton movie. And if you think about what that Jabberwocky looks like, even compared to this, it's so different.
I can't wait to revisit that because it's honestly I haven't seen it since it came out, so I don't really remember it that well. So I can't wait to go through that. I hope I can do that next week.
Yeah, you need to just take a weekend or something, a day, and just sit down and watch all of these Alice in Wonderland movies in one shot, comparable.
So then Alice hides. Okay, well, before she even hides, I just noted, I was like, this kid screams a lot. No wonder the Jabberwocky's tracking you. You scream once when you see it, then you run in silence.
I mean, I wonder how much they were like, scream now, Alice, director, scream when you get here, scream when you hear, I don't know. But
it felt very much like that because the scream is weird intermittent screaming. So I was like, wow, kid, did the director tell you to do this, or is this method acting?
Maybe she was having difficulty. Maybe they couldn't get her to scream when they wanted her to, so they just took what they got. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I was just like, oh, run in silence, kid. So Alice hides from the Jabberwocky, and then she runs into the White King after the Jabberwocky passes.
Yeah.
that foot of the Jabberwocky reminded me of Jurassic Park, the eyeball scene.
Yes.
Like, same level of fear. That scene in Jurassic Park scared the living daylights out of me as a kid. So that was my standard of CGI. And I look at that now and I'm like, that's kind of terrible. But like at the time when I was a child, that dinosaur eyeball haunted my nightmares.
Seriously. That was an awesome movie though.
Such a good movie. So now we're on our way. We got the king, the White King, the messenger, John Stamos, and we're on our way to the lion and the unicorn. And I was like, this should be fun.
Best, I mean, it's not really, you can't call it a cameo, but that casting was awesome. You look and you're like, hiya, the messengers, John Stamos. That's perfect.
I know, but it's kind of funny because my John Stamos is always going to be a Full House.
Right, Uncle Jesse.
Yeah. And I logically know, I'm pretty sure he's been in other things, but if you ask me John Stamos, my brain goes Full House.
Well, and that's where most people's brains go, honestly. Yeah. But yeah, but still, it's fun to see him in this movie.
Yeah. So we get up to the lion and the unicorn, and I knew this was not going to be pretty, but the unicorn is honestly horror worthy. He is terrifying.
He is a little creepy.
Yeah, he's so creepy. Like, they put him in like this full fursuit situation, but like, you know, it's hard to get a horse. I get that.
Yeah.
But like, a horse and two legs freaks me out.
Yes. But so the funny thing is the horse on the train is not creepy.
No.
You know what I think it is? Because I'm looking at this picture right now. I think it's also because of what he's wearing.
Yeah.
Like, he's wearing that, it looks like a jester's costume, kind of, you know, because it's got the diamonds in that pattern. I don't know what it's called.
I don't know.
And then the big thing around his neck. So I think that's part of it, is why he looks creepy. Like, I think really the thing around his neck, like, I think if that wasn't there, it wouldn't be as bad.
Yeah, because he's creepy. He's a terror to behold.
Yep. Beau Bridges, by the way. Beau Bridges. There's a lot of them Bridges. And he's one of them. And like, there's a whole family of actors there, all really good. And Ernest Borgnine is the lion, and Ernest Borgnine is Mr. I've been around forever and done like all kinds of crazy stuff. So anyway,
so we get that scene, and then we move on to her cutting the cake. They did a good job with this, but my favorite thing is the lady saying, yeah, if you drop this, a lion's gonna eat you.
Yeah.
It's like, what?
And Alice is like, oh, okay, don't, because it looked heavy too.
Yeah.
I mean, that cake was like, it was huge and chunky, and you could see like the weight of it on that plate. It looked really heavy. It did not look like styrofoam cake, you know, like it was like a heavy. Did you like how the cake just like splits in half? And so each of them has like a half of the cake. And I was like, okay, they're not going small pieces here.
No one else gets any, just the lion and the unicorn. And then the unicorn's like, he got more than I did. And I was like, you guys got half a cake.
Yeah, but I did like how they did that. It was done very well with it popping, her cutting it and then it sucking back together.
Yeah. Good. So then the drumming happens and she runs away in fear. No one else can hear it besides her, though, which is kind of an interesting touch.
Yeah.
And then the two knights start to joust, but like not well.
No. Which is fine because, you know, they're both like clumsy and stuff anyway, remember? Like in the book. So I feel like I was okay with that.
Yeah, I was just like, it looked like they're trying to sword fight with jousting, like, I guess javelins is what they're called. I was like, okay.
Yes.
But the knight who was weird was not as clumsy as he was in the book, which was fine, but
right. He does fall off the horse.
Yeah.
And he does have his inventions on the side of his horse.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good.
Yeah.
I will say this was always one of my favorite scenes growing up, when with the White Knight and Alice, and when
Mm-hmm.
he sings to her and they're walking through the forest and it's like misty. It's like, that was always just, I loved the White Knight.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like, it's like what every little girl dreams of, literal like knight in shining armor coming to rescue you, and he was singing to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, that was always one of my favorite moments in the movie. And even watching it again this time, I was like, it's so sweet, I just love it.
Yeah, it was very cute. And then so next, Alice goes over the little brook, and now she's got a cute little crown. I was like, "Aw."
Yes, I love her crown.
So then the two queens show up, and I will say, I think the Red Queen is more vicious in this than I thought she was in the book.
Yes, she was. I mean, it's because you can see her. You've got this physical representation of her now, so she does seem a little bit like nastier.
Yeah, but I thought it made it kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then they sing a math song, and the math song stressed me out. I was like,
who wants to sing about math?
Yeah, no. They're like, what's 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 + 1? She's trying to count them on her fingers, and I was like,
stop it.
Yeah. And then they have the entrance to Alice's party because they're celebrating that she's a queen. And honestly, the entrance in this was a lot nicer than the entrance in the book, because she gets like cut out.
Yeah. This was a lot nicer.
Mm-hmm. It was funny in the book. Like, it didn't make sense in the book, I mean. And so
right.
I was okay with this change.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. But then, they come into the table and no one's there except Alice at first, and then everyone starts showing up. But the weird thing is it's everyone from Through the Looking Glass and Wonderland.
Yeah.
So they just combined it all.
Yeah.
Here.
Which is fine. I mean, it makes, because I guess if you think about it, she's still technically in Wonderland.
Mm-hmm.
And she never went home in between.
Yeah.
In this one, it's just a continuation. She thinks she's home, but then she ends up being on the other side in the Looking Glass, so she's not home. So it kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense in this plot. So I wasn't mad about it. I was just like, oh, weird to see everyone together.
Yeah.
And then the Queen of Hearts is also there. And at this party, she's asked to give a speech, and she says she just wants to go home. And I was like, poor child.
Yeah.
So then the Jabberwocky shows up, and I was like, you're not supposed to be here.
Mm-hmm. Just when you think everything is fine. Oh, look, Alice, a present came for you. Yeah. And she opens the present. It's the Jabberwocky.
And the Jabberwocky just destroys everything, kills the White Knight, and she is finally able to crawl through the mirror to get back home. And I was like, oh, thank goodness, But then the Jabberwocky tries to crawl through the mirror, and she's like, I don't believe in you. I'm not afraid of you, whatever.
Yeah. And she finally faces her fears.
Mm-hmm. There we get our nice morals.
Yep.
And she wakes up sleeping in a chair. So it's weird because she wakes up in a chair, but my issue is when she fell asleep the first time, she was outside. So how did she get moved to this chair?
Exactly. I agree. How does that happen?
Yeah.
Did she, unless, okay, here we go. Okay, so she was outside with her sister.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe her sister wanted to come inside, and she didn't want to wake up Alice, so maybe she just picked her up and carried her inside and put her in the chair.
Yeah, that's possible, but it was just like one of those things where, because those are two different stories, it was like, oh, okay, you woke up in a different location. But I will say, as a kid, when your parents would take you in and you fell asleep in the car, and then you wake up in your bed and you're like, oh, I've teleported. I didn't know I could do that in my sleep. Like, I get it. It happens.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of a weird moment. Yeah.
Agreed.
And then her mother saying that she's finally grown up enough to come to tea, I thought was so sweet. But at the same time, I'm like, no, she's not. She's 7.5. Like, is this a formal sit-down tea? Because
yes. Well, but it's only with her parents.
Yeah, that's
it's what
true.
it seems like. Or maybe her sister. So it's not like there's other guests there. It's just family tea time.
Yeah, so I guess it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
So then she looks at the mirror again, and everyone from Wonderland is singing at her. Yeah. And that's how it ends.
I like that song. That song is like the one I remember. It always gets, that's the one that would always get stuck in my head that I remember.
Really?
Yes.
That's kind of cool.
I know.
Yeah. I will say I liked it. I did.
Yeah. I'm telling you, these were more than the Disney version or any other version that I've seen. These were always my favorite. And I just have such fond memories of watching it again with my sister and my cousin. I can totally envision the whole thing watching it at my cousin's house. But these ones have always been my favorite versions of Alice in Wonderland. Random actor fact again. So the guy who plays the White Knight, Lloyd Bridges, is the father of the man who plays the unicorn, Beau Bridges.
That's adorable. Well, he had his the director had his wife as the mother in the Alice's mother. Yeah, I realized. I was like, oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
I like when people do that where they have families and they're working together. I think it's cute.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, but that's all we've got. That's the wrap up of Alice in Wonderland. A very fun, very strange book. But it was very good.
But some great movies. So, yeah.
So if you want more Alice in Wonderland, we will, if it's not already posted, be doing Heartless by Marissa Meyer for Patreon. So please be sure to subscribe to Patreon. There will be more details about that in the end notes. And yeah, we will catch you all in the next episode. Leah, where can all the people of the internet find you?
Everyone can find my podcast, YA Book Chat, pretty much wherever you get your podcast. It's available on all the podcast streaming services. And you can follow me on Instagram at YA Book Chat.
Perfect. And we will catch you all in the next one. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you all so much for listening to this episode of the Bailey Bookish podcast. If you didn't hear it in the intro or you need a little reminder, next week we're going to be talking about the Iliad. Also, you haven't joined us over on Patreon, some very fun things. We are going to start doing early releases for every member of the Patreon. So instead of getting the episode on Wednesday, the episodes will come out on Monday, which is going to be great and a whole lot of fun. So if you haven't listened to it, please do so. And if you haven't joined the Patreon, please become a Patreon member. That's all going to be starting with our next book, The Iliad. So if you want to join the Patreon for just $5 a month, you'll get exclusive early access to our episodes. And also, if you join the $10 a month tier, you get those extra bonus episodes. So please consider joining, and it would be very much appreciative. But if you're trying to figure out a way to help support the podcast that's not through Patreon, please consider leaving us a review and writing a review on Apple Podcasts. It helps a lot, and I would really appreciate it. Or share us with a friend. Either way is great. But please consider helping out the pod and all that fun stuff. But I will catch you guys in the next episode. Our logo was designed by my little sibling Sarah. Our theme song is by Raphael Crux on freepd.com. And that's all I've got for you guys on this week. I'll catch you all later. Bye!